Namaskar and welcome to Business Wrap. I'm Priyanka Agarwal Chaudhary. The government today announced additional incentives for exporters hit hard by the global slowdown that include extension of 2% interest subsidy for one more year till March 2014. More details in this report.
In a bid to boost exports, the government on Wednesday announced a series of measures. The much-touted Inter-Raj Subvention Scheme was extended up to 31st March 2014. The Inter-Raj Subvention Scheme has also been widened to include engineering sector. Subsectors of engineering sector such as turbines, iron and steel have been added to the list. These sectors will become part of the Inter-Raj Subvention Scheme from 1st of January.
The government has taken, after consultation with all the stakeholders, certain decisions in an effort to give more support to the export sector. We have decided to extend the interest subvention which is available to the sectors, all the SMEs, handicraft, carpet, handlooms, ready-made garments, processed agriculture products, sports goods and toys.
The government has also decided to introduce pilot scheme of 2% interest subvention for project exports through Exim Bank. This scheme will cover SAARC region, Africa and Myanmar. This scheme will be operationalized immediately for a combined worth of $500 million. The ministry has also decided to grant incentive on incremental exports that would be made during January to March 2013 over the base period of January to March 2012. New countries have been added in Focus Market Scheme, Special Focus Market Scheme and Market Linked Focus Product Scheme. Meanwhile, export body FIO has welcomed the move of the government and has exuded confidence that exports will get a booster in coming months. It might be very cold in New Delhi, but with announcement of new export boosters measures, exporters across the country will get a warm New Year gift. Plus, the government will also able to achieve its $360 billion export target for the current fiscal year. Sidhant, Sibal, DD News, New Delhi.
Well, responding to the additional incentive announced today to boost exports, Mr. M. Rafiq Ahmed, president of FIO, said that the extension of the interest subvention scheme for one more year, much before its expiry, shows the proactive approach of the government, which will provide stability. Mr. Ahmed said that engineering sector has not dealt well in exports, despite having predominant share in export, and the interest subvention extended to the large-scale industry in certain subsectors of engineering sector would add to the competitiveness of engineering exports. And we're now joined by Sidhant Sibal to give us an input on all that. Sidhant, a lot of announcements there to try and give a boost to exports, but how much of a help is that really going to be, considering they've been dwindling for more than a year in this current global slowdown?
You can say it's a New Year gift or a post-Christmas gift to the exporters by the government. But let me first give you the scenario what our exports have been going through. From April to November period, that is the first 3 quarters of this fiscal year, we have seen exports decline and exports stand at $189 billion, which is down by about 5% compared to the same period last year. And the imports have also kind of risen to $218.7 billion. And given the fact that exports have been declining for 7 consecutive months, for the November, the exports declined by 4.2%. So presumably, the exporters were demanding for a booster measure. The ministry was in consultation with various stakeholders, the exporters, industry bodies, and it was about time that the government had to announce these measures. Well, measures, how will they boost the whole export scenario? Of course, they are going to boost. We have the last quarter left from January to March, and these measures are somewhat positive in a sense. Let me just go through the whole, what were the 4 main export measures which were announced. The 4 main export measures which were announced were the extending of the interest subvention, the much touted interest subvention scheme, and new items have been added, particularly in the engineering sector. Now I'll tell you what is the importance of engineering sector being added to the whole list. Basically, engineering sector is very labor intensive. it will give a boost to more job opportunities and more labor intensive sector. And of course, a new pilot scheme of 2% interest subvention scheme through Exim Bank has been introduced, and also incentive for incremental exports. So all in all, it will of course give a boost to the whole export picture.
Sidhant, you did talk about you gave us the details on the schemes that have been announced. But if I was to particularly talk about the textiles, the gems and jewelry, the handicraft sector, now they've been the worst sufferers in this global slowdown. How is the government trying to give a boost to these sectors? We know that the FIO has been appreciative of this 2% interest subvention, which has been extended for 1 more year. But how do you give a boost to these sectors?
Well, of course, today when Anand Sharma, the Commerce Minister, was having his press conference, he particularly emphasized the decline in export in all these sectors you mentioned, and of course these increase in the interest subvention scheme will give boost to these sectors. And basically today when the Commerce Minister was talking to VS Press reporters, he said these sectors need more boost, and these measures will give a positive flip to all these sectors. So we hope these measures will give a positive flip to the whole scenario in these sector.
Also, Sidhant, he did talk about the trade deficit being concerned, but what's being done to actually bridge the trade deficit, because we've seen that imports have steadily been rising in the last 1 year.
Of course, the measure announced will give a fillip to the whole exports, and if exports rise, our imports are heavily dependent on petroleum products, electronic products. We cannot reduce our dependence on petroleum products. It's not possible, and we have seen the petroleum products, the price has been increasing, particularly after the slowdown has been cast out. In a sense, we have seen growth in some parts of the world. Of course, the overall global picture is really not nice, but the petroleum prices are increasing from 56 to 110 dollars a barrel. So these measures will give a fillip to exports, and of course then we can reduce our trade deficit, because controlling imports is really difficult. We can only control our exports, and the government has been time and again giving impetus to the whole export picture.
But will these measures also help us to meet our export target of $360 billion?
Well, of course, that was one question which everyone wanted to ask, and that was perhaps the first question which came out, whether that target of $360 billion will be able to achieve it. Commerce Minister Anand Sharma was kind of pessimistic. He said, I cannot really give you a promise, but it's not likely. Till now, from April to November, as I said, the picture stands at $380 billion US. We have just left with almost 3 months, and it's really difficult. Even Anand Sharma, the Commerce Minister, was quite pessimistic about the whole picture.
Sidhant, very quickly, now we've seen in the past also that newer markets like Latin America were explored to give a boost to the export and try and explore new markets for that. How much has it helped, and do you think talks of exploring newer markets is going to help further?
Well, of course, diversification is one thing which actually helped the whole Indian export scenario particularly after the 2008 global financial crisis, because before financial crisis we were heavily dependent on our western export trading partners, America and Europe. But when we saw after the crisis that all these markets are going downwards, we need to diversify, and that was the main objective of the Commerce Ministry. We went for diversification. That actually helped us to achieve the $300 billion US export target for the previous fiscal. We are exploring the new markets, particularly SAARC, particularly ASEAN, and today also when the initiative was announced, just let me go through the official press release. The policy of introduction of pilot scheme of 2% interest subvention project has given emphasis on SAARC region, Africa and Myanmar. These are the new trading partners of India, I believe so.
All right, Sidhant, Sibal, thank you so much for joining us with that update. With that, we'll take a quick break here, but there's lots more on the other